Welcome back to another live webinar with CameraPro. Today we're sitting down with Director of Creative for Life, Fotoworkshops, the founder of the Aperture conference, and Fujifilm X Ambassador, Glenn McKimmin. How you going, mate?
Good, mate. How are you? Hello, everyone.
Good. Well, it's awesome that that obviously you took the time to sit down with us. So thanks very much again.
Oh, anytime. You're welcome.
Awesome. Well, mate, look, I'll jump just straight into it. I guess sort of the big question is like, what actually started your journey with photography?
A few things. I did photography at high school, and I was at a boarding school for 6 years. Away from family and stuff, and I loved sport, but I just had an interest in photography. It sort of started. For those of you who don't know, Ken Duncan's my uncle. I usually try and get that one out of the way early.
Right.
So he was always there in the background, obviously, and I used to see his books and prints and all that sort of stuff. And so it was always there. But then I started at school, obviously, using a dark room, and and then I just fell in love with it from that point, really. I didn't keep doing it, but I always loved it.
Okay, far out. Well, having Ken Duncan as an uncle would be, I mean, if I could think of anybody to actually learn from.
Yeah, no, that was a well, it's good and bad. I know you always it's pretty high benchmark to keep up to in the family. You're never going to be the best photographer in the family, are you? So
I don't know about that.
yeah, but I look at it as I'm a very, very lucky person to have that kind of guy that I can lean on, and he's been an incredible influence on my career and life. And he's always there supporting and very supportive of me to this day. So, and I've worked with him and done a lot of stuff. So yeah, it was a huge head start. But I mean, anyone that knows him and has worked with him or for him knows that he doesn't need sleep.
Okay.
So, and the lessons you learn is you don't get to where he is or where people like that are without a serious commitment and passion and an incredible work ethic. And that's, so yeah, you can say it's luck, but you've got to be prepared to learn and commit to obviously get things you want in life.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, like even that sort of that adage of that it's all luck is kind of, I don't know, it can be written off. You've got to be in the right place with the right skills to even make use of that luck anyway. Yeah,
the luck. Look, I say luck, but I don't believe in luck. I'm like a lot of people. It's what do they say? The harder you work, the luckier you get, and that's
it.
Yeah, that's what I always look at. It's not, it's fine to look. I've spent 15, 16 years trying to get to where I am, and you make a bucket load of mistakes, but for 15 years you don't make any money either. So it's I say that facetiously. Obviously I got a lot of things that go well, but it's more, photography is one of those things you gotta stick at it. You can't build a portfolio in a year. You can't get noticed nowadays in a year. It's 5-10 year goals that you need to be setting for yourself. And when I keep going back to Cam, but I know him and my auntie Pam, we used to walk around with a hard case. I've still got one. He gave me a portfolio box with his prints in it, and he would just walk into businesses before anyone was selling prints and try and sell them to people who didn't actually know they wanted them. So, so it's a lot of hard work, not luck, obviously.
No, for sure. Do you feel like this is, sorry, going off topic from the questions I had, but like, do you feel like nowadays the sort of industry, I guess, is more oversaturated than what it was before, like when you started?
Oh yeah, look, when I started, I was doing another guy I worked for a long time was David Oliver. He's been a great influence on my photographic career, and he he when I was doing weddings with him, he was doing weddings on film still. I started shooting landscapes on film. I remember every time I pushed a button on a medium format camera, it would cost me, I think, $5 a shot in film and processing. And so that digital, when digital sort of started, it took that. Obviously, there was the expense of the camera, which was, you know, on par with what cameras were anyway. But the ability to not have it cost you, you know, if I got a bit frisky one afternoon and went out and got a bit excited, I could dump $300 or $400 on film. Just whereas nowadays, what do you really? You got to buy another hard drive, and it's you build up your work that way, I guess. So, but yeah, there is a lot more competition because. I guess people can, it's the instantaneous nature of photography now too. You know, people can just pick up a camera, go out, start taking photos, put it on their social media, all these sorts of things. And the imagery that's out there, in all honesty, like, it's pretty incredible. Like, people that don't do it for a living take incredible shots still. So yeah, but it's you know, sometimes in life you got to figure out if it's what you want to do, and if it is what you want to do, then you got to figure out a way to make it happen. There's no point whinging that there's too many photographers out there or no one's buying my work. It's I tend to try and be a bit more solutions focused and figure out why they're not buying it and how they can, or why I'm not getting jobs and how I can, rather than bitching and moaning about the lack of work. So
yeah,
yeah,
for sure. I got a question here from Henry. He's saying, what's the best way to remember and recall all the many functions for a specific task, apart from flicking through the menu every now and then? Is it just more practice?
Oh, okay, like using the camera? Yeah, that's probably
yeah, I'd say so.
Okay, so yeah, just to be very clear, I'm the most untechnical camera operator there is in history, probably. And by that I mean, when I learn on film, sometimes I find photography, people that get into photography, they're so focused on this little tiny box that takes the pictures, they actually forget why they're doing it. And the little box, the camera is great, right? It takes the images, but you're the one seeing it. And so I always go back, when I started on film, there's aperture, shutter speed, and in those days your film speed. That's all you need. Trying to figure out functions and ways to do things, in my mind, and that's only my opinion, is a waste of your time. You figure out your aperture because you're using the depth of field. So if you want to do a landscape and you want everything in focus, you know you got to be shooting f11 or higher. If you're wanting to do portraits, then you know your aperture's got to be lower, like f4 or lower. To soften the backgrounds, if that's what you're after. Shutter speed just determines if you want water movement and slowing that down. You know, and the ISO and all that. It's the little triangle we all learn at the very start of photography. And I guess I like to take the complexity out of photography. And I think there's so many people out there writing bloody books and teaching people how to do stuff, and really at the end of the day, it's those three little things and your eyes and your vision that allow you to be a photographer. And that photography is subjective. It doesn't mean everyone's going to love what you do, but understanding those three simple things is the key to photography. So it's going out and knowing the look you're after, using those three things to get that. Right.
So essentially basically focusing on the sort of very bare bones basic stuff before worrying about anything else in your menus.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't use the menus. I'm not saying, I've got Will from Fuji here, and if I have an issue with something technical with the camera, then I can ask that. But I'm really focused on, literally still to this day, those three things: the aperture, speed, and the ISO.
Sweet. It definitely helps having a Fujifilm rep on hand.
Yeah. Speed.
Yeah, it's it. Mate, I was just sort of wondering as well, obviously we've spoken about Ken, but where do you draw your inspiration from besides obviously your uncle?
So nowadays you can probably see a bookcase behind me, and there's another one out there. I don't Yeah, I don't necessarily draw, like, I think it comes a point where you, like, I worked with Ken. I was his assistant for 4 years. I was David Oliver's assistant and helped them for a period of time. I've worked with another guy called Leo Meyer. And what ends up happening is you end up, well, I ended up starting to take pictures maybe that looked like Ken. And then I went and worked for David, and maybe the pictures started to look like David's. And then Leo. And then what ends up happening over time is your unique style comes out. And that's something that takes time. And I'm still struggling with that. So I get inspiration, I guess, from the places I go, the experiences I have in those places. And it makes me want to go back and learn more, or try a different area and learn more about that. But I don't really go out and look at many other photographers anymore. I did that for so long and gained so much knowledge. So my inspiration is really, which is a bit frustrating at the moment, which was very travel and experience based. There's nothing like turning up to a beautiful country or a really hectic scene in India or something like that, and challenging yourself to create something cool. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I guess that's where I get my inspiration a lot from, just the world.
Yeah. Well, because I guess it's sort of like I was saying about the sort of industry being a bit oversaturated at the moment, like you do see a lot of sort of, I guess, copy paste of the same sort of image. Yeah. Which is easy to fall into.
It is. And sometimes, like, I look at it, like I've had that thing about the Wanaka tree in New Zealand. Why do you want to go do that? Everyone else does it. And it's like, well, I don't know. It's a cool shot. I just want to go there and take it. Doesn't mean I don't find other cool shots within that area that I take, but it's the same one as that classic shot over in the Lofoten Islands in Hamnoi. There's a big arch bridge, and we photographed down on the little red sort of huts that we stay in. That shot's a classic shot, and people are like, oh, why would you go? I'm just like, because it's pretty and it looks cool. And it's always a challenge to see if you can get something a little bit different. And the other thing is, I've traveled a lot with groups of people, and there's nothing in my mind better. I mean, photography is such a cool, creative thing, and everyone sees everything different. To stand there with 10 people, 8 people in these locations that are iconic, and you shouldn't do it because everyone else has done it. But you stand there with these people, and they're all so happy, filled with joy. They're photographing a scene that they've seen somewhere before, and it's bringing them joy. And you're surrounded. You can be on that bridge in Hamnoi or at Wanaka, and I've been at Wanaka and had 200 people photographing a tree in a lake. And you're like, people look at it, there's two ways and go, oh, this is crap. Everyone else has done it. They're ruining the area, or which they're not. But A, it's bringing tourism to the area. But B, what a way to celebrate photography. There's like a bunch of people out enjoying nature and photographing a subject all at once. I mean, if it was a game of footy and there's a whole lot of people watching, it's like a great experience. But when it's photography, somehow it's copycatting or whatever it is. But I look at it different anyway, put it that way.
No, I totally agree, because like I guess it's a matter of like if you've seen something, like in a book or whatever, like all the books you've seen that you got behind you, you see an amazing photo and you're like, wow, I'd love to go there. It's such a different thing to be there yourself, experiencing the rest of it, and then actually getting to take a photo of that area, and then you've got that forever.
That's it. That's exactly right. It's like seeing the first time I saw the Holi festival I saw in India, I saw photos of Holi, and I was like, damn, I have to do that. At some point in my life, I had to do that. I met this fantastic bloke, Terry Taylor. He helps me out with a lot of stuff in India. Fantastic guy, so knowledgeable about the area. But you go there and you go into these interactions where you're like, and you could never get the same photo at Holi ever, because it's like the most hectic experience for a photographer you probably have, bar a war zone. It's really full on. But going there and getting your take on it and telling your little story, that's what I love. That's the challenge.
Yeah. Well, I guess like you say, it's like it's entirely personal experience, right?
Yeah, 100%. And why not? It should be. It's your take. And I remember even when I first started, the bloody getting over the fact that someone didn't like our first exhibition I had, and then people came in and they were like, they didn't like some of the pictures, and it took ages to realize and just accept the fact that you're going to take photos people don't like, and it's actually okay. That doesn't matter because it's subjective, right? People aren't going to like everything you do all of the time. And that was a big hurdle for me early on, just to realize that you got to stick true to whatever you photograph, stick true to it. People are going to like it. People are going to not like it. But really, at the end of the day, who cares? If you're happy, that's what matters.
How long did it take you to get over that?
Yeah, a little while. I took it pretty personal. Like most people, I don't like getting criticised. I don't know a lot of people that do. But especially about something that you put your heart and soul into, you know. But, you know, now I could care less. I've had many exhibitions since, and I had, you know, 2-3 of my own galleries, and it's water off a duck's back now because it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's whatever makes you happy that matters. That's
it. And clearly you obviously got fans and enough to have 2 galleries. So
yeah, that's the thing. And it's like life, isn't it? Sometimes, and I go through this, I'm sure everyone does, but you can have 20 people come in or 100 people come in and say how great that shot is or this is and how great your work is, but one person comes in a month and says that they don't like it, and you know, you tend to focus on the one person in the month, not the 100 that have complimented you. I think that's just a psychological shift you need to make sometimes to go that it doesn't, who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Obviously at the moment, I know you're a big GFX user.
Yeah.
But you have been borrowing the X-T4 recently, right?
Yeah, I've been using that a lot. I just did a little wave sort of series that I was doing on that. Yeah, great camera.
Awesome. We just had a question here from Peter. What additional features are in the X-T4 other than Ibis and the extended battery and screen that would drive me to upgrade from the X-T3 as a photographer?
I'm just going to put on my technical face.
Yeah.
He's popping in now. Will can answer this.
Hey guys. So realistically, there's not a huge amount of advantages if you're only using it for photo. Ibis is the biggest difference between it. There's not a great deal of difference from X-T3 to X-T4 for photo unless you're using slow shutter speeds, realistically.
Because the same sensor, isn't it?
Yeah.
So ideally, or logically speaking, if you took the same photo, same setting, same lens, you'd get the same photo?
Pretty much. There will be some slight differences with the RAW because they will be a slightly different engine with it.
Yep.
But yeah, nearly identical.
Sweet.
Cool. I'm going to hop back out.
You're right. I hope that answered your question, Peter. And as far as there was actually, might have to get you back, Will. There was a question regarding difference in boost modes on the X-T4.
Personally, I haven't been using it too much. I believe the boost mode is removed from the grip, and it's always quicker. But Neil will be able to answer this, which he already has. The boost mode allows you to select which parts of the camera use extra power as given. I believe in economy, if you've got the grip in, you're only using one battery at a time, whereas boost modes tend to draw from all at the same time. So for speed. But yeah, Neil will be able to answer a lot more clearly in the comments with a lot more information.
Perfect. Yeah, what was that, Jack?
Yeah, we might just leave the more technical questions for Neil and the Fuji guys in the chat, and then any practical questions we can ask Glenn.
Cool. That sounds good. Cool. I guess off the back of gear, what gear are you currently using?
So I've got the GFX 100 and the X-T4. So yeah, I just split between those, and then with the GFX, I've got the 32 to 64, the 23, the 250 with the converter, and a 110 macro. I think it is. Is it 110?
110's a portrait. Yeah, we got the 120 macro.
I've got the 110 portrait.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. If you could only take one camera and lens, to shoot landscapes, which would you be taking?
No. If it was just pure landscapes, probably the 23. It's a beautiful lens. I like shooting wide, but yeah, it would probably depend on the venue I was at. But yeah, usually I love the 23. It's a great lens, and it's sharp right to the edges, which is good.
Yeah, nice. 23mm on GFX is 18.
I think it's 18. Yeah.
Yeah. Far out. That is wide. Awesome.
Yeah, pretty wide. Yeah, I'm waiting for him doing a wider one.
Yeah. How long have you been using the GFX on 104?
What's that?
How long have you been using the GFX on 104?
Since it came out. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a year and a bit. I first took it to Kamchatka in Mongolia last year. So yeah, that was about August last year, I think. Yeah.
Okay. And what are the pros and cons that you've been noticing since using the GFX 100?
I was using the 50, the 50S and the R before that. And I guess, look, if there's a minor con, which I don't really see it as one, is it's slightly heavier than the 50S and R. But I mean, I quite often couldn't be out shooting, and I've got people there with a 1DX or something like that and they're almost heavier, and they're still 35mm. So I mean, yeah, I don't really have any cons, and I'm not saying that just for any other reason that I don't have a problem with it. The pros are obviously the things I look for, because my end result isn't likes on Facebook or social media. Anyone who knows me know I detest most social media. But my end result and the thing I only care about is what the print looks like and what the file looks like that I get out of that camera. And the only reason I switched to Fuji was that reason. I believe that the files, the Fuji's history with color, coming from that film background, the unique knowledge of that alone sets them apart from every other camera company. And also, I just find the files so good to work with and work on, and that translates straight through to the detail I can get in prints. And why I care about that is because people buy my work, and hopefully the reason they keep buying it, or someone else they know buys it, is because they see that quality. And all along that process, that matters. So that's the con to me. Sorry, the pro. Yeah, it's such a great, I just love it. It's such a beautiful camera. Ergonomically, it's so good to use too. It's brilliant.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, even the size difference, if there, is one, that it's not even the positives that you're gaining out of it just override anything bad, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and most of my work when I'm focused out in the field and doing something landscapey or culturally, I'm usually on a tripod, so the size isn't really an issue. If I'm in I did the Holly Festival with the 50S and the R, one on each shoulder, wrapped in waterproof bags and all that sort of stuff, and they were fine. But that might be the only other link, whether I'd take the 100 into somewhere like that. The X-T4 would be absolutely perfect in that arena. But yeah, so for me, most of the time I'm out on a tripod or hanging out of a helicopter or something, and that GFX, the size doesn't really come into it. Doesn't matter.
Perfect. How many times have you been to Holly Festival?
3.
Okay.
Yeah, and we get different areas too. Like there's different experiences you can have at Holly, and that's where the guy I use, Terry Taylor, that I've used to go to Holly, and he sets up these tours for my company. The experience is vastly different to most people's Holly experience. We're not on the periphery of the, they have these little arenas that people come into, not mosques, but I forget the exact name, like temples. So they come into temples. A lot of people hang up on the periphery edges, shooting down into them, which I've done. That's great. But you know, like anything in life, you got to get right in the thick of it. So we tend to get right and encourage our groups to get right down in the middle of it. And it's just something else. It's an amazing experience.
Yeah, right. So I got a question here as well, just on the back of the X-T4. Someone's just, I've lost it now, but they were asking if you've been using zooms with the X-T4.
Zoom lenses?
Yeah, zoom lenses.
Yeah. So the whole reason I did speak to Will a while ago. So when all this big swell came through recently, I was trying to get some really close shots of waves. And so I wanted to test the X-T4 with the 100 to 400 and the converter, because the only other limitation with the GFX 100 is just the lens, right? So the long lenses. And when I go to like Sri Lanka or Africa or somewhere like that, and I need to get that much closer, I just wanted to test it out for that, and I was really impressed. The 100 to 400 with the converter. I used it for quite a while, just focusing on, as I said, waves. When we were lucky, we had 2 lots of swell come through recently. So and I can't fault it. Absolutely brilliant, beautiful lens.
Sweet. Mate, I was just sort of wondering as well. Obviously, you've a massive landscape shooter. It's kind of obviously not all you do, but quite a large part of it. I noticed I've obviously been looking through your website and everything. You've been to many places. Obviously, you've covered Holy Festival. You've gone to obviously the USA, New Zealand, a plethora of other countries.
Yeah.
What's your ultimate landscape location?
Oh, it's really hard to narrow it down. We were just talking about this before, but I honestly believe for Australians within range, New Zealand is off the charts and so underutilized for Australians. I think 3 hours on a plane, you can be in Queenstown, and you can be pretty much similar conditions to European, the Swiss Alps. Obviously not that high, but I mean, it is to fly into Queenstown, get off the plane and see what you see in that place. So I think within range, that place is brilliant. And one other place I went last year for the first time was Mongolia. And that we traveled with 2 lots of nomadic families. They just arrived into their spring homes, I think it was, because they travel compared to depending on the seasons where they live. And so we got to live with 2 different families over about 8 or 9 days, I think it was. And the landscape in Mongolia combined with these eagle hunters on horses, I'm not sure if it can get much better. It's something, I mean, I could show you pictures, but they wouldn't even do it justice. So that would be definitely another place. And I know you asked me one, but it's hard to narrow it. And the other place, if everyone's ever in Europe and you want something that packs a punch in such a small area, is Slovenia. So the Slovenia borders Italy, Austria, Hungary, and Croatia. So you can, from Bled, for instance, Lake Bled, you can be in Austria in half an hour, Italy in an hour, Croatia and Hungary. And it's surrounded by these Alps. There's the most incredible scenery you've ever seen, the best food and wine and cream cakes, which are really good. And yeah, it's just such a small area, but just the diversity of shots you can get is quite incredible.
Unreal. Sounds like a really beautiful place.
It is, mate. It is one of the most picturesque places. It's almost like, it sounds a bit silly saying it, but it's almost anywhere you look, it's like a postcard. It's so beautiful. It's just incredible.
Unreal.
Yeah.
I got a couple questions here, but another one's added on. I got one from I'm gonna butcher your name. I'm sorry. Mahinthan.
Yeah, I
When you
can see
photograph Holly, exactly which city or place do you go for? And do you have any measure to protect your gear? Obviously, you're talking about waterproof bags before, but
Yeah, so that's easy. So there's a number of places to go in Holi. It's all centered around, see, Holi's the celebration of the marriage, I think, of Hare Krishna. So it's a spring fun celebration. It's all around the Hindi base in India is all around Vrindavan, and near Vrindavan there's two towns called Barsana and Nangaon, and Barsana and Nangaon are the best places in India to do Holi, in my opinion, and from what I've been told. So, and to protect the cameras, I'm normally leading a tour there. So we give everyone these like rain shields, but then we tape them all up for them around their lenses. So basically they got long plastic arms. You put your arms in and you can have the camera, and I have a black rapid straps with two cameras. And then, so you can, have a long lens on one, another one on another, and you can just basically walk through the streets. Your cameras get filthy. You get absolutely disgustingly filthy. But, we even go to the lengths of, this is all Terry, the guy I work with, but he will give everyone, in our little packs, we give them coconut oil, and we coat everyone in coconut oil, because the stuff they throw at you, the powder and the water and the crap you get all over you, oil actually helps it wash off a lot better.
Right.
Anyway, we've learned all these little tricks over the years, so it saves. But your gear, you got to protect the gear. That's the big one.
Unreal. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought coconut oil, but
no, I wouldn't have either. And
it all smell good.
Everything. We just go in looking like very slick photographers. Yeah.
I got a question here from Anthony. As a professional landscape photographer, how much time do you spend out in the field shooting, and how regularly?
Oh, 1 day a year.
At the moment?
Yeah, no. It really depends. Like, I've been really lucky in that. I keep going back to that word, but I don't believe it. But I had the tours business, so I could be in different countries shooting, and that was how I sort of built up work over years, I guess, by staying later or going earlier. But look, if I'm around here, I just get the bug every now and then, and I have to go out and photograph. So I'd say at the moment probably a couple of days every fortnight. But yeah, I mean, it's not what it seems, because, I spend so much time here. I'm 40 hours a week in the office working. I've got businesses to run, and without me here, that just doesn't work. So the practicality of, being out shooting is just not possible a lot of the time. But yeah.
Yeah. I got another one here as well. Sorry, actually, Jackson's got one for you.
Yeah, I've got one for you, Glenn. Sorry.
You're right.
What do you find when you're trying to find somewhere new to explore?
Yeah.
How do you do? Like, how do you find it? Like,
the place.
What went with location? So, if you would travel somewhere new, how would you discover this place?
So I find someone who's very good at that and use them. Basically, I might see a picture somewhere, right? And the guy I keep referring back to is a guy, Terry Taylor. He's a lovely man, good, really great friend of mine. He has found and comes to me with, because I might say to him, he's very knowledgeable, traveled all his life, knows the travel industry. And I'll say to him, I need somewhere different. I need to go somewhere no one's going. I want to find, or not that that's necessarily possible, but a different experience to give. And it was all around the tours. So to give people a different experience, something that they couldn't normally get. And that's when he'll come back to me with some locations. Like, that's how Kamchatka came up, Mongolia. The experience that we give people in India is vastly different than a lot of people will do Holi. So I guess, it's like anything in life. It's like I suck at accounting and bookkeeping. So I have a bookkeeper. it's using people's skills in order to get the goal you want. And Terry's been that guy for me. He's always delivered the goods when it comes to producing experiences for people and for me that are different. So that's essentially what I do.
Wait, so basically just find someone who's great at it and leverage off them.
Yeah, and it's like anything in life, isn't it? I can go, and if you know, there's New Zealand, for instance, I go on my own, and I'll go and travel New Zealand, and I will find spots that are cool, and I won't, you know, most of the time it's one of those things Ken taught me. It's like, don't stay on the main roads if you're trying to find cool shots. Like, be prepared to waste shitloads of time driving up dirt roads that you think lead nowhere. And most of the time they do. Most of the time they lead nowhere. But every now and then you drive up a dirt road and it leads to this magical place and you get a great shot. And then I love taking people back and sharing those spots. So, you know, if I'm looking for something really exotic, I'll use someone like Terry. But if it's something for me, or an area that, you know, isn't like an exotic, like in New Zealand, where you just got to drive around and find it, I will just literally go off and look and fail, and then fail and fail, and then one day you find a cool spot.
It's basically just keep on looking.
Yeah.
Maybe we've got another couple of questions as well. Sorry, Jackson's got another one. Another one.
There was a question about editing just earlier, Glenn. What do you use to edit your photos? And I guess, what have you noticed differently between editing X-T4 images versus your GFX? Okay,
so firstly, I'll answer that one. So the difference is literally with the GFX, as you would expect, the dynamic range is a bit better. And the detail is chalk and cheese, right? So the X-T4, the files are still fantastic, nothing wrong with them. But literally it's just those two things. So dynamic range and that detail, which you would expect. The editing I use, so I quite often process files in Capture One, just a little bit. So I don't do a lot. So on occasion too, I'll actually use CameraPro, and then most of my editing is all done in Photoshop with a TIFF or a file. So I bring it in. All my files are brought into Photoshop at 50 inches on the long edge at 300 DPI, 16-bit. In Adobe RGB color space. So when they come into Photoshop, most of my files are around about 900 meg to a gig. That's a starting file. So then I'll do changes within layers in Photoshop, and I also use Nix software a little bit to do stuff. But yeah, other than that, I'm not. I learned bits and pieces ages ago on Photoshop, and I have this workflow that I use, which is exactly what I just said. A little bit of layers in Photoshop and masking and Nix software and the blending of those things, and that's literally it.
Sweet. Cool. Mate, obviously at the moment, not really too much international traveling going on, unfortunately. Yeah. For people who are obviously trekking around Australia at the moment, do you have any, like, a top 3 or 5 places for people to go to photograph?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's always interesting, and what I've learned in this period, which has been challenging for me, is actually I hadn't done a hell of a lot of shooting in my local area. And I think that can sometimes, it's a challenge now, right? Because it's like anything, like we were talking about before. You see pictures of, you know, where I live, you might see pictures of the Skillion down in Terrigal, or, you know, Nora Head Lighthouse and all these things. And I honestly got sick of going out and doing it because it was just the same stuff. So, yeah, you know, when I'm going out now, it's actually testing me a little bit to see what I can see different in my local area that maybe I wouldn't have seen before. And I think that the situation we're all in at the moment is probably allowing that to happen naturally, because obviously we've never been in this situation before. So I think one of the first places to look is your local area, and use this time to really think about how maybe you can go out and photograph it a bit differently than you have before. Look at things different, because how can you not right now? The other area is I love the Alpine area down in Australia, so around Thredbo, out at Kyandra, up around Perisher and Guthago and all that sort of stuff. So it's absolutely beautiful down there. I usually go and stay at Lake Krakenback Resort down there. Beautiful place, really, really close to everything. Tasmania, I think, for Australia is definite. It's a lot like New Zealand, relatively quiet down there. You can roam around and do as you please, and incredible landscape stuff as well. And then I think also, I mean, you can't go past our outback. I've spent a bit of time over the years out in the outback with Ken, out at a place called Haas Bluff, which is about 260 k's northwest of Alice Springs. And I think there's something really special about the centre of Australia when you get out there and experience it. You can see pictures of it, and you can, it's got a very different feel than what you would think. And I think that's a special place to photograph if you get the chance. And there's one other cool place up and down the east coast I like, which is called Crescent Head. Great surf spot, and just these incredible rock formations that are really, really cool as well. So yeah, they're sort of places I like going. They're not atypical, they're not places everyone goes, but yeah, probably what I'd say.
No, I think your advice is really solid. Like, at the moment, what other options do you really have but rediscover your local area?
Yeah,
I think that's a great start.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do? I mean, it's unique for everyone, and we've all had to sort of adapt and figure out ways to push through it. And I think, as anything in life, and a lot of health professionals will tell you, it's any hobby that you can get into at the moment is probably a fantastic thing for your mental health. And I think photography, you can go out and you can take your mind off anything that's going on in your life or in society at the moment. I think getting out, finding new places to photograph within range of your house that you're allowed to go and do is a good way to pass the time.
Definitely. Well, I noticed on your blog you have actually spoken about not only photography, but obviously having a hobby and how good it is for your mental health.
Yeah.
How has the 2020, like this whole lockdown thing, really affected yourself and obviously your photographic mindset as well?
Yeah, look, when it first happened, I'll just be brutally honest. I reckon I was a few days away from falling into a pretty awful place.
Yep.
And really, because I have so much collateral out there, I guess, because of the businesses I run. So I had the Aperture conference, so you can imagine having already sold tickets to that, not knowing what was going to happen. Then I had something like 8 or 9 tours booked with my cash holding deposits all over the world. You don't want to know how much money that was. And then having the fact that I got 5 staff for Creative for Life who, I didn't know whether that was going to go ahead. So, like everyone, I think we all freaked. And then one day I sort of woke up and I just had to accept the fact that Aperture was not going to happen. My tours were not going to happen. That money was for tours, not Aperture's fine, but the tours, the money for that, I had to just accept that was not going to come back to me, and they were not going to give it back. And I had to figure out and adapt to what we were going through. And so I reshifted my focus to the 2 businesses I knew could make me get me the cash flow, and that was really to protect the staff I had. So I focused purely on the creation of and the completion of an online ordering system for Creative for Life, so people can upload and pick and create orders online. And then we pushed out a pretty hectic marketing campaign with a pretty big ad spend, with a nice discount to try and encourage people who were sitting at home, the avid enthusiast photographers, to get stuff printed and framed, and that thankfully worked. And then I came up with an idea to sell my own work. I just created a series and called it 100 for 100 because I knew people were struggling. I'm in a unique position in that I own the printing and framing company, so I could afford to take a bit of a hit on my own work. So I sold 100. The idea was to sell 100 prints at 30 inches for $100 for the print only, delivered to your door. And I just tested it. Wasn't sure if it was going to work. And thankfully it did. And I'm onto the third image now and nearly sold them all out. So it's sometimes, and when this first started too, I had the printing and framing company, and I'm just being honest. I'm not sure the anything, so I was stressed out of my head. And I had a shitload of stock. So I had papers, frames. We're a big production house, so we have a lot of stock. And I was just thinking, I have so much stock. So then I came up with an idea to start a photographic, not a competition per se, but a way of documenting isolation. So I came up with this concept to do 20/20 isolation, which was a way for people to upload their images. But not only that, they uploaded them. Like a lot of competitions, you pay $30-40 and you get nothing. If you don't win, you're just paying, which is fine. That's what a competition is in the premise. But I didn't want to do that. So what I did was every person that entered paid, but I sent them A4 prints of their entries. So
cool.
They were getting something back. And the hope was that at the end of it, we could maybe produce a book of everyone's experience in Australia of the isolation period. So that's still going now. We still get people getting entered into that. And when this is all over, I'll try and figure out, doing a book is a expensive process. So I'll just try and figure out how we can make that happen. But I think the key is, my mindset at the very start was, I think like a lot of people, was freaking out a fair bit. But then I just, you just got to calm down and realize that, it's going to, like most situations in life, it's going to cause stress and panic. But I'm not really one to lie down and take it. So I'm a bit competitive. So I've got to, so anyway, I just like everyone had to figure out a way to make money and get through it. And thankfully in our industry, and I think because most people are sitting at home, either renovating their houses, redoing their houses, looking at their walls, they can't go anywhere. So how many Australians would be in Bali right now if it was, and all these things they're not doing. So just by luck and by the circumstances, my businesses, those two particularly have been okay. So, yeah.
No, that's really good. Do you feel like having photography obviously helped you get through that, especially obviously the really hard moment?
Yeah, it's helped me, mate. It's helped me in my life a lot. With every I've had a lot of challenges in life. A lot of shitty things happen, like a lot of people have, and it's always a good thing for me, a good leveler to go out, on my own, or if I do have to travel. Like last year, I was in 11 countries.
Far out.
With the tours and stuff, and I probably didn't give myself enough time. For me, I probably didn't give my family enough time. I probably didn't do all those things. But if I'm ever feeling like that, and I can lucky enough to be able to stay in a place a bit longer or go a bit earlier and just go out and take photos and not have another worry for that day or 2 days or whatever it is, that's, I think without that, I'd be, struggle at times.
For sure. Well, even like, obviously the benefit being that you're obviously quite a heavy landscape photographer. Like even just getting out and reconnecting with nature is such a huge thing for people.
It's massive. Like, I even put, this is going to sound stupid, mate, but I put my earbuds in. I go out with the new noise cancelling thing, and I'll put this stupid classical music on. Yeah. And I can go and walk through the bush. I can walk anywhere now, and it's just like you can actually just forget what's going on in the world for a period of time. And I think people need that. We get fed all this shit and fear so much, and it's really, I don't know, it's hard for me not to get, drawn into it. And I think you just got to, if we don't have an outlet, like I do a hell of a lot of exercises too, because, without that, it's difficult. But I think, definitely a hobby is the key in photography. And what better way, bar exercise, to go on a massive walk or onto the beach or wherever you might be and take photos. I mean, there's no, you literally can forget everything else that's happening.
Yeah, that's huge. I think, I think you're definitely in the right mind of thinking with having to get out there, doing your hobby, and obviously getting exercise in at the same time. That's awesome.
Yeah, 100%.
That's good. I'll go see. So there's a question here from Mike. He said, "Hi Glenn, if you were to reflect on the images in your massive portfolio, is there one that you'd pick as like a defining image?"
Yeah, hi Mikey. I know Mikey's a good fella. Yeah, there's one, and I had an exhibition last year at Ken's Gallery up the road. We did a joint exhibition, and there's one, I forget what I called it. It is out there wrapped up, but it's a picture I took. So it's a bit of a story, but when I worked for Ken, I was his assistant. A lot of people have this notion that when you work for a photographer that you get to take photos. Mm-hmm. But that's really not true, is it? Like, if I didn't understand it for a while, because I was like, I'd love to be able to take a photo now because it looks really cool. But your job is to make sure, in those days, the camera was loaded with film, that you were logging the film as it was being used, that you get home and you collate all that film, you put it into all the folders, and that was how it was done. And you're not there. Why would a photographer pay all this money to take you all the way around the world so you can build your portfolio? That doesn't work. But towards the end of my time with Ken, we were out at Haas Bluff, and he said to me one morning, I had my cameras there, and I used to drive the cars back. So if we were at Alice Springs, he'd fly home and I'd drive the car back. And then I could take photos on the way home, which was cool. I'd have a very tight time frame to get home. But anyway, long story short, this one morning he woke up and he said, "You can go out this morning." I was like, "Oh, okay, do what?" And he said, "You go take photos wherever you want, take the car." So I did, and I went off, and I've got this picture. I think I called it The Journey or something like that. But it's a shot of just a ghost gum at sunrise with this beautiful Haas Bluff behind it. And to me, that picture, that morning cemented what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So that's probably the one picture that means more to me than any others, because it was sort of the start of Ken maybe acknowledging that I could and me believing that I could. So it was, that probably meant the most.
Unreal. Is there a place that we could like see that? Is it up on your website or?
Yeah, I could probably.
When we do the walk, we can grab it if it's out there.
Yeah, it's just out there.
Oh, cool.
Framed. It's that little one. There's the smallest one wrapped right there. I'll just get him to because I printed it little for the exhibition. I just put in the corner with a story, that exact story. Yeah. That's it. Beginning. Yeah, I'll get I'll unwrap it.
Go for it.
I'll unwrap it in a sec. And but yeah, so that's probably a defining picture, I reckon.
And how long was that into your like whole photographic career?
Oh, it's right towards, so I'd probably been back in taking photos probably 6 years, because I was trying to make it in rugby union. I wanted to be a wallaby. So I was trying to, and I was living on the Central Coast, but I was playing for Penrith, and I had to drive 3 days a week, 2.5 hours each way to train and play. And I needed a job. So Ken and Pam, my auntie and uncle, were here, and they owned at the time Creative for Life, which I now own. And so they gave me a job printing in the darkroom. And when I realised I wasn't going to make it in footy, I thought I needed to find another way to make an income. And I loved photography, always had. So yeah, that was my first sort of foray back into it. Was like probably 2005 or 6 or something like that. And then that Haasbluff, this photo was probably around 6 years in, I guess. Yeah, all on film and everything. So
that's awesome. It's been like a 15-year journey now.
Yeah, 15, 16, something like that. Yeah, just sticking at it.
Well, you told me obviously about Created for Life. And when did you take over that?
So late 2012, early 2013, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was it as big as it is now when you sort of started there?
Yeah, it's ebbed and flowed because I made some errors.
Okay.
When I took it over, I probably tried to go too big too quick. So then I went through a phase of squishing it back. So no, look, when I bought it, and it was pretty huge. Yeah, it was I probably had 7 or 8 staff at that point, but it was sounds bad. It was a bit hard to manage. It's a big, lots of wheels in motion and things like that. So I needed to learn and figure out, because I'd never done anything like it. I was just sort of bought it and thought it'd be easy, like everyone does, and realized it wasn't. So I basically shrunk it back down, moved premises, and now have built it back up. So better systems and all those sorts of things are in place now, which makes it easier to run, less stressful. And now we're in a position where we're actually going to try and grow substantially bigger. But, I never would have been able to do that had I not. And this is a big thing you always hear, but unless you learn from your mistakes, you're never learning. And I've made some whoppers. So I've learnt from them, and now I'm better prepared to sort of take it where it needs to go, I guess.
Great. I got another question here from Robbie. As a landscape photographer, life can get pretty dusty, snowy, etc. How often do you clean your gear out, and how thorough are you?
I'm pretty particular with my equipment. Like, I don't like having dirty stuff anywhere. I'm not OCD, but I just don't like. Yeah, I look after everything I have, like I always have. So yeah, I will always, if I get back from somewhere at night, I'll always go through to clean all my lenses, all that sort of stuff. So I'll make sure that everything's tidy. Because if you're in snow, or what he's saying, Robbie's saying there, with snow or dust, etc., if you let that sit and like the water melts or the snow melts, and then it can get into your elements and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I always like to, as soon as I get back from somewhere, it's like tripod legs. People go out and they're photographing the beach. They just chuck the tripod in the back of the car, and then they, come out a week later, and it's like, oh, that shit's mean no end. So I'd actually get off the beach at night, and I'll find a shower at the beach, and I'll hold the tripod and I'll wash it all there, or I'll get it home and put it in the shower or the hotel or wherever I am. And it's all those little things, and even getting salt spray all over your cameras. You got to, I mean, if you want stuff, I'm spending big money on stuff, so I don't want to be buying it again. I just want to look after it.
Yeah, you don't want to have to rebuy a GFX 100 if you can avoid it.
Yeah, exactly. I dropped everything in Mongolia last year. Actually, I dropped the 50S, smashed it straight on the ground. It held up. I could, believe it or not, still use it. The eyepiece fell off. It was good. I was nearly going to do an ad for Fuji. So the eyepiece fell off. I couldn't see through the eyepiece, but I could still use it and see through the screen. And it took a beating on this rock mountain.
Far out.
But yeah, so anyway, that happens.
How far did you drop it?
Well, I was standing on the side of a mountain, and across the ridge was the eagle hunters with their on 2 of them on horses, holding their eagles up with this sunset, and it was so perfect. And then I was there helping people, right? So I was conscious. I really wanted to get a good shot, but my main priority is to make sure that other people are getting a good shot. So it was pretty windy. I'd set my tripod up and just left it there, and then went off to help someone, and then came back, and it was halfway down the hill. So Still,
Software tumble.
yeah. So big fall.
Jeez. I got another question here from JC.
Yeah.
How long does it take it for you to take one photo? Do you walk around, assess the lighting and composition for a long time before taking this shot?
Yep. Some photos, the longest it's ever taken me to get a photo is 7 years.
7 years?
Yeah, there's a place I could show you that. I haven't got it here. So there was a place in New Zealand, which I said you go down dirt roads. So on the way to Milford Sound, there's a place, if anyone ever goes there, it's called, the name escapes me. It's a little dirt road that goes off down to your right before you go up over the Homer Tunnel into Milford. And basically you go down there, there's beautiful aqua streams that flow along there. And I went past this corner and I saw this picture in my head, but and it's a place I take my tours to New Zealand every year. I take them down this particular place. And I saw this shot the very first time I went past it. I was like, that would be epic in the right conditions. But every time I went back there, it just didn't work. And it was what's this year, 23? Yeah, last year I went back. I had a group with me. I went around this bend on the dirt road and I saw this thing and everything was literally perfect. So I stopped, got the whole group out and we lined up on this. It's just like on the corner of a dirt road and it looks straight up this stream with this beautiful mountain. And yeah, that was 7 years of going back and back just till you get the right conditions. But, you know, sometimes other shots you might, I remember we got to Slovenia. The first one I went to Slovenia, I didn't have a group with me. I was doing a recce there and I got off the plane and it was snowing, no wind at all, right? But it was snowing. The flakes were like 50-cent pieces. They were huge, the flakes falling out of the sky. And we went to Bled, which is this, if you don't know Slovenia, it's this beautiful town right around a lake. And in the middle of the lake is this island with a church. And when we got to Bled, the snow just kept falling, but no wind. So the snow was huge and sticks to everything. So these trees were just covered. Everything was white and you got no wind. So the lake's all still and beautiful. It was like the ultimate conditions. And we just wandered around. There was about 3 or 4 of us there. We just wandered around for, I think, 3 or 4 or 5 hours around this lake. And I reckon I got 3 or 4 shots there that was just like the draw. That was just flying into the perfect conditions. And yeah, so it's really tricky. Some shots happen, others don't, but you got to plan these things too. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
7 years.
That's just waiting. It's just literally being, and I called that shot patience.
Patience.
That's what it's called. I've actually got it in my own house because it means that much. It's like it's always that thing. Yeah, you just make sure you stick at it. And if you see something, I mean, it's hard to go back to New Zealand every week and try and wait till the conditions are right. But yeah, that one stood out. Yeah.
That's good. Sorry, Jackson, you got a question?
Yeah, I've got a question for Glenn as well. Glenn, you find the art of printing is a bit lost now? Do you find people aren't printing as many images now that everything's basically available digitally?
Yeah, see, this is one of my bugbears. You're probably going to get an emotional response here. But yeah, look, you know, by definition, photography is the study of light, right? So it's the study of light. A photograph isn't a photograph till it's printed. Like a photograph isn't a photograph because someone puts it on social media. To me, that's not a photo. It is in a sense that it's your portrayal of an area, but a photograph by nature is a printed medium. And I think our industry has become obsessed and or flooded with experts and know-it-alls that their whole lot in life is to get likes on social media and, you know, be acknowledged in that forum. But it's the whole reason I started Aperture, because it's the knowledge and the stories and the history in this industry not only in Australia, but all over the world that people don't think about. And Aperture to me was trying to educate people that what photography is and what the end result is. And that's, I think that can be a bit lost in translation sometimes. It's become this, and we all hear it all the time, this age of immediacy where everyone has to be successful overnight and have all these things. And I think the most positive thing I ever experienced in photography is someone willing to spend their hard-earned money and buy one of my photos and put it on their wall. And that's the printed medium. And I think that's the other reason, like this Creative for Life, the printing company, the joy that people get sending their pictures here and getting them home and putting either their own pictures on their wall or our bigger clients who are photographers who sell their work to people. And that to me is the art in photography. We can all go out and capture the images. That's nowadays anyone can do it. It's not like there's a mad science or some crazy skills that we don't know. We can learn that. But the art of printing, the art of getting a file ready to print, the joy of that, and then seeing that end result, that's for me, that's what really matters. And that's, I guess, again, I go back to the Aperture thing. That's sort of why I started it, because there's a lot of ignorance out there about photography and how easy it is. But when you go and you listen to Ken's life story or Steve DuPont, Jack Piccone, Alexia Sinclair, Murray Fredericks, all these speakers we've had, and you sit there, Ray Collins, amazing stories, you sit there and you listen to them and you see their journey, and inevitably there's lots of hardships along the way, but all of them, it's a printed medium. That's what that's the end result. Whether it's in a book or on someone's wall, it's about the finished product. And so, I think as an industry, we need to do a bit more, but I don't know how to make that happen. That's why I started my own thing, because I was like, I can't change the industry. The bodies, ARPP and all this, it's not worth it. They've set on a path that's theirs, and I just thought there was an opening to educate people more about the industry itself.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think you're right. Like the sort of age of print media is so, I guess, lost now too. So it's great to see someone like yourself who's obviously so dedicated with keeping that alive.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean there's not. I shouldn't say that. It doesn't mean there's not a need for like the image usage market. I know a lot of people do really well on the image usage, but I mean, back in the day, you could sell a bunch of images to Qantas or to BHP or to someone like that for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 for image usage. But now even that market's been completely torn apart by Getty and everyone else. So, but it's not to say there isn't other ways to monetize your work, or it doesn't have to just be about the printing. But it's also figuring out that there is value in photography, and there's ways that you can show that value rather than just getting more followers on social media or likes or whatnot.
Yeah. Sorry, did you have a question, Jackson?
Yeah, is there, Glenn, with everything going on at the moment, is there any passion projects that you really want to do, but you just quite can't do it at the moment?
Yeah, there's a couple I'm really wanted to do. There was two big. There's one in India. It's an awful one. But when I was in India, I was struck by in Agra, which is where the Taj Mahal is. There's a cafe that Terry took us to, and it's run by these ladies who are they're acid victims, they call them. So what happens in India is sometimes with this, and they're trying to stop it all, and they say they have, but it's something to do with the dowry deaths. So the fact that women are bought and arranged marriages and all that sort of stuff, and how that affects the women. So sometimes they can have awful relationships with their mothers-in-law. Sometimes the husband just doesn't like them because they don't produce boys. And inevitably, sometimes these blokes come home and they get acid and they throw it on these women. And we went into this cafe. There was a mother and a daughter, and this mother had 3 children. One of the daughters was there. When the guy came home and did this, there was the lady, the mum is severely damaged. There's a portrait of them on my social media thing. The daughter is pretty much 90% blind. There's another daughter that's severely damaged, and the youngest died. This mother is still with the husband because he didn't get charged. And yeah, it's their outlook on life is still somehow positive, and they're still happy. And we go in there, and anyway, long story short, there's been a real desire in me to go back to India. You have to do it very secretively because it's not talked about necessarily, and the men in India tend to be in charge of everything. So, and it is changing, but I'd really love to go back and do that at some point. And the other reason is it's a big test for me. It's not landscapes, it's portraits. I used to do bucket loads of weddings and stuff, and I'm familiar with how to do it, but I just think to do something that actually matters and could affect people in a positive way by shining a light on something that's not real pleasant. Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that. But obviously I'd had plans to do that, and I'd organised some things and spoke about it with Terry, but just haven't been able to do it at the moment.
Well, hopefully you can get over there soon, because I didn't know anything about those sort of things going on. So unreal.
Yeah, it's terrible. But anyway, it needs to be shown more.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. No, we'll go on you for getting over there when you can. I'd be completely hard to get off that, I guess. But should probably answer the questions that we've got.
Yeah.
Going from Rachel, white balance for landscapes. Do you use white balance check cards for landscapes? Important for portraits, but I kind of feel not as much for landscapes. Is this the case?
Yeah, no, I don't use it. I always just use auto white balance in the camera because, I mean, once you bring it back into whatever software you're using, you can change it like that anyway just by ticking the button. So yeah, no, I always just use auto white balance. It does a pretty good job out in the field. And I mean, with what you're doing now anyway, with the editing process, you can, I just leave it on auto.
Yeah, well, it's not like the auto white balance is easy. It's great now, but also in Lightroom and stuff, it's easy to fix up. So it's not a big drama.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, easier. Less things to worry about.
What we'll do, we'll obviously get you to show your journey image. But I got one more question, and then we'll do that, and then we'll do the studio tour if you want.
Yeah, okay, cool.
I got this question while you're unwrapping that. What is the main advantage do you personally get from medium format cameras compared to full frame or APS-C cameras? More detail? Are they worth the price and size comparison in your opinion?
Yeah, so it's that's what I said before. So it's the dynamic range of this, the 100, and just the sheer quality of the file. It's 100% it's worth it. Yeah, it's chalk and cheese. The quality of the printing I'm getting now, and the detail, and I'll show you some prints, or one print, but the size I do. And the size people, generally want on their walls. You don't want things to look soft or a little bit out of focus or pixelated or anything like that. So, and even the dynamic range, you can get like posterization in your files and the colors, and being able to utilize that 16-bit processing and printing capabilities now. It's quite incredible. And to get 100 megapixels. I mean, look, you can do a comparison between Fuji and Phase 1 and Leica and the other brands, and I'm telling you, bang for buck. I see files come through here all the time, and I don't know, there's I don't know. I just find bang for buck, it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, there's not much in it when you do compare, especially to things like Phase 1.
No, I mean, they are great, don't get me wrong, but I mean, are they that much better? I don't know.
Well, I guess it's a matter of, is it worth, you know, potentially $60,000 more for the body? I don't know.
I don't have that.
It's up to you. If you've got 70 grand or whatever for a camera, then go for it. But
yeah,
I don't. So
yeah, exactly. I called this the beginning, not the journey. There you go.
That's sorry.
No, you were right. I said the journey, but I just saw it on the outside of the packaging. I don't know how well this will show up, but it's an old film shot. There you go. I don't know if you can see that okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Ghost Gums. I think they're Ghost Gums, those ones. And then that's Haas Bluff off in the background, but it's pretty much, shot on Velvia, good old Velvia. So, yeah. So that's that. That means a lot to me, that one.
That's great, mate. Is there anything about shooting film you miss?
Yeah, not looking at the back of the bloody camera.
Yeah.
and I'll tell you something here. Quite often, I actually don't look at the back of the camera. I don't review my stuff. I might review one to make sure that I'm sharp.
Yeah.
But if I'm out on a tripod and stuff, I think it's this whole thing. You see so many people out shooting, and they're constantly like zooming into the back of the screen, and they're doing all this stuff. And back in the day, you didn't do that with film. You just basically, went out, took your photos, trusted that you knew how to focus, which is not rocket science, and B, that you knew how to trust that little slider that tells you when your exposure's right. I mean, I used to walk around with a light meter, a Sekonic light meter, and I used to just when you put all your details in your film, I used to just point it at a mid-tone. I'd know my exposure, I'd set my aperture, go out and literally not think about anything else. And I think that's that whole, going back to that whole thing of this instant, instant glorification that we all need to say we've got something great. It's nice for me to go out in that mindset where I can just set the camera up, focus at once, know that I'm focused, turn that off if that's what I do, and then just enjoy myself.
Well, I think like nowadays you sort of spend 60% of your time just reviewing your images in the back of your camera if you're not careful enough.
What's that, sorry?
Like nowadays you can spend like 60% of your time just reviewing your images out in a shoot if you're not careful.
Yeah, I mean, mate, I'll be on tours, running tours with people, and there might be 10 of them out there, and lights, landscape stuff, lights shifting all the time. You can be out doing bloody elephants in Sri Lanka or who knows, New Zealand, and the light's shifting all the time, or Slovenia, and whilst ever you're looking at that stupid bloody screen and zooming in, making sure that you know how to focus, well, you should go and learn how to focus firstly, so you're in the moment, you know what I mean? So I think you can miss so many shots too, and it's about being present. It's like anything, I guess. It's if you're not present, you'll miss a lot of stuff. Yeah. So
Jackson's actually got a question for you. He's a bit of a film tragic himself.
Yeah.
He's asking, any reason why you haven't tried the X Pro 3 if you sort of really enjoy not looking at the back of the camera?
No, Fuji hasn't given me one.
Oh, well, there you go.
No, I just haven't. I haven't. In all honesty, I just haven't. I should actually. That would be really cool. Yeah, but as I said, I pretty much go out, and I don't. And I know it sounds stupid, and people won't believe me, but I don't really look at the back of the camera.
Oh.
Yeah, I find it much more enjoyable just not doing that.
Like, do you feel like it's just too distracting?
Yeah, because you constantly, it's like that thing. Sometimes you can look at the back of the camera and you can go, shit, I've nailed that. Yeah. And you're like, it's before sunset or sunrise, whatever it might be, or you're out, who knows where, and you're like, I've nailed that. I don't need to stay anymore. And then you go pack your stuff up, you get in the car, and then bang, there's a rainbow. And you're like, whereas, I found back when I was shooting film, you would just hang around. Like you hang around because it's not over till it's over sort of thing with landscape photography. So I just find if you just constantly check and you know exactly what you got, and you'll miss something.
Yeah. Well, mate, look, I reckon it's probably better time than ever to you to show us around Creative for Life.
Yeah, we're gonna do this.
Do a bit of a swap.
Move around, yeah.
So we're just going to swap over to the webcam.
Yeah, we're going to go to a very technical, very fancy method of doing this, which is
on the ground.
Yeah, on camera FaceTime.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Here we go.
Perfect. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you very much for your questions as well. I hope, obviously, we're going to go for a walk around, but I hope you guys have gotten a lot out of it.
They're coming on now. There we go.
Already. We're going to follow around.
You can follow me
Look at
around.
this.
Here's some of that's a big frame print from Tekapo in New Zealand, to be able to see. That's one of those 100 for 100 I was telling you about. So that's the, it's called Good Luck because it's got its trunk up. Because I love that line out of the castle. But yeah, so these are some of the prints. This is my sort of little area up here. That's how I decide where I'm going in the world with Terry. So we just throw darts, wherever it lands, we go.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, we
all
could go
the framing happens.
You make all your frames in-house, don't you?
Yeah, this is all custom made here. So this is the whole factory inside. There's another factory out the back where we join and assemble all the frames.
Okay.
And cut all the boards, all that sort of stuff. And then here's one of the GFX 100 prints. So that's 60 by 40 inches. So it's
That's it, I'm doing it all.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, Will's doing this blind, but he's done great. Yeah, so that's one of the prints. And so yeah, everything else we do in-house here. The printing's all done in that other little room there. But yeah, that's it.
Unreal. It's a massive production.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty huge. We do yeah, a hell of a lot of stuff. So busy time.
Oh, thanks very much for showing us around. Is that sort of about it, really?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, yeah, do you have any other prints that you would like to show us, or?
Not that
Easy to grab.
they're all rough.
I've got a question for you, Glenn.
Yeah,
How do you decide what you want to put up in your house, print-wise?
my house.
How do you choose the best ones?
I don't know. I usually, if I have some stuff that means something to me, I don't like putting, stuff up that I don't. Yeah, it's got to mean something, I guess. Whether it's my prints, I got prints of Muhammad Ali up in my house because really cool ones of him like standing behind a cage when at Joe Frazier's training and stuff because I love Muhammad Ali. So yeah, I think things on your wall, they got to mean something. You can't just. Well, I can't anyway. So yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, mate, thanks very much. Are there
Thanks,
any other
Glenn.
questions or anything?
No, as I said, any technical questions, just feel free to shoot through to us. But yeah, we thank Glenn. We can't thank him highly enough. Very informative and awesome to get a view of the studio. So that was really cool.
Yeah. And Karen.
Wave.
Taking away.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, mate. Well, look, thanks very much for joining us today. It's been great actually getting to talk to you finally. Thanks again for obviously showing us through and answering all the questions that we've had.
Anytime. You can send me emails or anything if anyone's got any other questions or whatever, or you can message me.
Robbie wants to know what beard oil you use, Glenn.
It's actually natural.
El Natural.
Oh.
I just grab it off my forehead and
I was going to say the photos on your images page are a bit different to what you are currently. Is that an ISO formation?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I've been called all sorts of things.
It's called Photoshop.
Every day I come in, depending on what outfit I have on, I get called a different name. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Glenn.
Cool.
Awesome.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Cool. Talk to you soon, mate.
See you, Glenn.
Yeah.